Very good evening to all of you. আমি যোৱা ক্লাছত হেড কৰিলো ইণ্ডো-গ্ৰীক্স। ইণ্ডো-গ্ৰীক্সৰ লগতে আমি আৰু কি ডাইনেষ্টিজ পঢ়িলো আমি ডাইনেষ্টিজ নহয় কি বুলি কম কি গ্ৰুপছ পঢ়িলো কুশানছ পঢ়িলো শাকাছ পঢ়িলো পাৰ্থিয়ানছ পঢ়িলো পাৰ্থিয়ানছৰ সবতকে ইম্পৰ্টেন্ট কিঙৰ নাম ক'ব লাগিব এতিয়া আৰু আমি যে স্কাইথিয়ানছ বুলি কৈ আছিলো একচুয়ালি হেতু কেনেকে প্ৰনাউন্স সিথিয়ানছ বুলি কয় ন সিথিয়ানছ বুলি কয় আমি স্কাইথিয়ানছ বুলি কোৱাটো ভুল হ'ব সিথিয়ান তো সিথিয়ান তো শাকাজ হয় ৰাইট আপোনালোকে যদি ভিডিওটো চাইছে আপোনালোক ক্লিয়াৰ হৈ গৈছে শাকাজ বিলাকৰ বিষয়ে গন্ডো ফেয়াৰনেছ ভেৰি গুড আৰু শাকাজ বিলাকৰ পপুলাৰ কিং কোনবা মনত আছে নি আপোনাৰ ৰুদ্ৰদমন ওয়ান তেওঁ কিয় ফেমাস হয় ৰুদ্ৰদমন তেওঁ কিবা এটা কৰিছিলে নহয় সুদৰ্শন লেক ইমপ্ৰুভ কৰিছিলে আৰু এটা ফাৰ্ষ্ট এভাৰ লং ইনস্ক্ৰিপশন ইন সংস্কৃত ভেৰি গুড সো আপোনালোকৰ ইম্পৰ্টেন্ট বস্তু কেইটা আপোনালোকে এতিয়া জানে আৰু এতিয়া এই সাতবাহনৰ লগত শাকাজ বিলাকে ফাইট কৰিব সাতবাহন ইফালে হৈ আছে এফালে শাকাজ বিলাক আছে তেওঁলোকৰ লগত আমি ফাইট দেখি থাকিম মানে ৰুদ্ৰদমনৰ লগত ফাইট দেখিব সো হেখিনি আমি পঢ়িম সাতবাহন আৰু সাতবাহনৰ পঢ়িছো যে এতিয়া প্ৰথমতে পিকচাৰটো এবাৰ চাই ল'ব লাগিব তো এয়া হৈছে আন্ধ্ৰা বুলি লিখা আছে যে আন্ধ্ৰা ইকুৱেল টু সাতবাহন ঠিক আছে আৰু এই শাকাজ বিলাকৰ লগত ডেফিনেটলি কাজিয়া হৈ থাকিব এই দেখো এৰিয়া মালৱা এৰিয়াটো এই দেখিব এটো বহুত ইম্পৰ্টেন্ট ৰিজন হয় মালৱা প্লেটো আছে তো এফালে কি আছে বিন্দিয়া আছে এফালে আৰাবলি আছে এই দেখো এৰিয়া মালৱা হয় ঠিক আছে The most important of native successors of Mauryas. Native successors. Bakibur ki asile foreign successors asile. Northwestern. Aru Satvahana hoise native successor. Of the Mauryas in the Deccan. Deccanoto Maurya asile he Deccano Maurya jega dokhor kune lole. Aru Central India kune lole Satvahanas. The Satvahanas are considered to be identical with Andhras. Important. Note koi lobo. Who are mentioned in the Puranas. The Puranas speak only of Andhra rule. Puranot Andhra rule kothae koy, Satvahana nokoy. And not of Satvahana rule. On the other hand, the name Andhra does not occur in Satvahana inscriptions. Satvahana inscriptions ako Andhra boli namtwe nai. তো এনেকুৱা হৈছে পুৰাণা বুলিকে আন্ধ্ৰাৰ কথা কৈছে আৰু সাতবাহনা বুলিকে আন্ধ্ৰাৰ কথা একেবাৰে কোৱা নাই According to some Puranas, altogether the Andhras ruled for 300 years, and this period is assigned to the rule of the Satvahana dynasty. So Satvahana dynasty 300 years rule korise, aru Andhrao 300 years rule korise. So proshnoto hol je Andhra Satvahana hokolok Puranas bilakot ki namere jona goise. That is a question. The earliest inscriptions of Satvahanas belong to the 1st century BC. 1st century BC earliest inscriptions ase. When they defeated the Kanvas and established their power in parts of central India. Central India Kanvas asile nohoy হয়নে আৰু এফালে মৌৰ্য ৰুলটো কোনে লৈছিলে এডখৰ জায়গাত মগধত শুংগাজ বিলাকে লৈছিলে ৰাইট শুংগাজৰ পিছত শুংগাজ বিলাকক পিছত কানভাজবোৰ আহিছে and established their powers in parts of central India. The early Satvahana kings appeared not in Andhra but in Maharashtra. প্ৰথম Satvahana kings বোৰ আন্ধ্ৰাত আহা নাই ক'ত আহিছে মহাৰাষ্ট্ৰত হে আহিছে where most of their early inscriptions have been found. প্ৰথমতে মহাৰাষ্ট্ৰত আৰম্ভ হৈছে তাৰপিছত আন্ধ্ৰা এৰিয়ালৈ গৈছে suppose. They set up their power in the upper Godavari valley which at present produces rich and diverse crops in Maharashtra. Gradually, Satvahanas extended their power over Karnataka and Andhra. Karnataka and Andhra. Etiao Andhra to Andhra Pradesh hoye ase na. So ami gom palu. The greatest competitors were the Shakas. Greatest competitors kun hol Shakas, who had established their power in Upper Deccan and Western India. Western India Shakas bilak asile aru Shakas bilak logot onoborte teolokor contest hoi thakibo for supremacy. At one stage the Satvahanas were dispossessed of their dominions by the Shakas in Maharashtra and Western India. The fortunes of the family were restored by Gautami Putra Satkarni 106 to 130 AD. So Gautami Putra Satkarni ki korile ei je Satvahana power to akor restore korile. Yat etu mon koribo Gautami Putra makor naam ase yat. Kali Mother's Day asile nohoy. So makor namot teor naam ase Gautami Putra. So Satvahanas bilake makor namot lora bilakor naam rakhisile. আৰু তেওঁৰ ডেটটো লিখি থব AD 106 to 130 most important king হব তেওঁ সবে নোট কৰিলে সাতবাহনা আন্ধ্ৰা বুলি কলে গৌতমী পুত্ৰ সৎকৰ্ণী আপোনালোকৰ মনত থাকিব লাগিব he called himself the only brahmana defeated the shakas only brahmana so after Maurya brahmana popularity আকৌ বাঢ়ি গৈছে গৌতমী পুত্ৰ সৎকৰ্ণী নাম মনত ৰাখিলে আপোনালোকৰ সাতবাহনা ক্লিয়াৰ হৈ গ'ল আৰু destroyed many Kshatriya rulers he claims to have destroyed the Kshatrata lineage to which his adversary Nahapana belonged so তেওঁৰ adversary Nahapana আছিলে তেওঁৰ Kshatriya Shaharata lineage asile Shaharata lineage to pura dhongko kori dise boli koise Nahapana note kori lobo Nahapanak teo destroy korise boli koise This claim is true because more than 8,000 silver coins of Nahapana found near Nashik bear marks of being restruck by the Satvahana king Satvahana king e kak destroy korise etu ahibo pare eta line hisabe je Nahapana he claimed to destroy Nahapana lineage enake eta line ahibo pare tetia yes no koi pine eliminate ba tik koribo lagibo He also occupied Malwa and Kathiawar which lay under the control of the Shakas It seems that the empire of Gautamiputra Satakarni extended from Malwa in the north to Karnataka in the south. Possibly he enjoyed general authority over Andhra. So Malwa para Karnataka lage Gautamiputra Satakarni empire kon asile ba kingdom. The successors of Gautamiputra ruled till AD 220. The coins and inscriptions of his immediate successor তেওঁৰ successor কোন আছিল Vasisthi Putra Pulumai এটো লিখিব লাগিব another important তেওঁ আছিল AD 130 পৰা 154 গৌতমী পুত্ৰ কেতিয়া আছিলে এই ডেটটো মনত আছে নে কিমান 130 এফালে আছে আগৰখিনি কিমান আছিলে 106 এতিয়া वशिष्ठी পুত্ৰ পুলুময়ী তেওঁ 130 পৰা 154 লৈকে আছে আন্দাজটো গম পালেও হৈ যাব এটা লিখি থাক মনত থাকিলেতো ভাল কথা নাথাকিলেও এক্সামত এনেকুৱা নহয় যে আপুনি এটো নজনাৰ কাৰণে এনসাৰটো কৰিব নোৱাৰিব এনেকুৱাটো নহয় সো वशिष्ठी পুত্ৰ পুলুময়ী তেওঁ হৈছে successor of Gautami putra and show that by middle of the 2nd century this area had become a part of Satvahana kingdom Andhra control ahi goise boli koise ekarne tat ki paise coins or inscriptions paise kar paise Vaishishti putra Pulumayi paise ar teo kun asile teo successor asile Gautami putra he set up his capital at Paithan or Pratisthan on the Godavari in Aurangabad district so ami etia capital to gom palu capital of Satvahanas kot asile Paithan or Pratisthan so ene hori dibo this dynasty set up their kingdom in Pratisthan they were named after their mothers who were these kings Satvahana Cholas Pandyas ene hori dibo ekarne ei concepts bu apnalok dorkar hobo kisman facts o dorkar hobo Paithan or Pratisthan on the Godavari in Aurangabad district এই ম্যাপখনত দেখাইছে নেকি let us see again yes এইটো চাওক আপোনালোকে এইখন হৈছে গোদাবৰী গোদাবৰী এডখত Paithan বুঝছেনে এইটো গোদাবৰী এটা Paithan এইটো ক্লিয়াৰ হৈ গল আমাৰ The Shakas resumed their conflict with the Satvahanas for the possession of Konkan coast and Malwa. Rudradaman I, AD 130 to 150, the Shaka ruler of Saurashtra, defeated the Satvahanas twice. Kathiawar, mane Gujaratot asile Shakas bula. But did not destroy them on account of matrimonial relations. Matrimonial relations থকা কাৰণে একেবাৰে destroy কৰি নেপেলালে কিন্তু কি কৰিলে তেওঁলোকক পৰাস্তটো কৰিছিলে Yajna Sri Shatkarni 165 to 194 one of the later kings recovered North Konkan and Malwa from Shaka rulers তেওঁলোকৰ মাজত ফাইট to চলি আছে He was a lover of trade and navigation. So Yajna Sri Satkarni likhilog note korilog edo AD 165 to 194. Our dhar kings ase. Jibu sobot ke important hebilake NCERT dia ase we must not miss them. Or what he did recovered North Konkan and Malwa from Shaka rulers. Eneke notebook banai jao koro. Aru he was a lover of trade and navigation teo trade bepar banijyo khub bhal paisile ar navigation o bhal paisile his coins have been found not only in Andhra but also in Maharashtra Madhya Pradesh and Gujarat teo kami lover of trade and navigation Yajna Sri Shatkarni bili keneke gom pao karon ki teo coins ot ki korisile ships akisile coins ot his love for navigation and overseas trade is shown by the representation of ship on his coins sekarne Yajna Sri Shatkarni teo he had love for trade and navigation a period to know support ke important hoy jay from the point of view of trade and navigation Maurya time ot himan trade hua nasile surplus janetene arambo hoise tar pisot Gupta time ot ki hoise trade decline hoy goise so etwe hetu period hoy post Maurya আৰু প্ৰি গুপ্তা যেটো পিৰিয়ডত সবতকে বেছি ট্ৰেড হৈছে মানে এটো গোল্ডেন এজ ফৰ ট্ৰেড ইন ইন্ডিয়া সে কাৰণে আমি এটো আমি জানিব লাগে এই এজটো কথা সেই কাৰণে এটো সুধিব ইয়াৰ পৰা প্ৰশ্ন aspects of material culture এতিয়া আমি কি বস্তু পাইছো না material culture কেনেকুৱা বস্তু আমি তাত পাইছো The material culture of Deccan under the Satavahanas was a fusion of local elements and northern ingredients. North India pa material culture to tolle ahisile na Maurya kalot. Ami hetu pohisilo. Etia he fusion local elements o ase aru northern Indian elements o ami pam. The megalith builders kun asile etia. Megalith builders ami pohisilo agote. Kun asile megalith builder of the Deccan were fairly acquainted with the use of iron in agriculture. Eto apnale kobo lagibo megalith builders keneke chini pai apnaloke. Monot ase ne? Kyo megalith boli naam disile teolokok? No idea. Burials stone tools to banaisile but teoloke megalith naam paise stone burials disile na dangor stone monot ase ne grave surrounded by stone very good so hetu kotha megalith builders of the Deccan were fairly acquainted with the use of iron or agriculture although before circa 200 BC we find some hoes made of iron the number of such tools increased substantially in the first 2-3 centuries of Christian era. We do not notice much change in the form of hoes from megalithic to the Satvahana phase. Only hoes were now fully and properly socketed. Etia jibilak hose asile hebilak properly socketed hoy. Besides socketed hoes, sickles, spades, kur. Spades mane kur. A sickle mane ki hoy? Kasi. Kasi ni bili ki bili koy? Kasi bili koy no? Plowshares, axes, edges, razors, etc. belonging to the Satvahana layers. Hebu bisari paise. Tanged and socketed arrowheads as well as daggers have also been discovered. Socketed arrowheads. Etia arrow bilakor enuka socketed arrowheads ase aru. Lathi dalor uport socket hisabe bhorai dise. At a site in Karimnagar district, even a blacksmith's shop has been discovered. The Satavahanas may have exploited the iron ores of Karimnagar aru Warangal. So hey iron ores bu teoloke paise aru hekarne kingdom ekhon banabo parise no for in these districts indications of iron workings as early as megalithic phase have been found. Evidence of ancient gold workings has been found in the Kolar fields to gold pa ami sobe janu in the early Christian centuries. The Satavahanas may have used gold as bullion. For they did not use golds as the Kushans did. Kushans bilake gold to keneke use korisile? Gold coins. As they did not issue gold coins as the Kushan did. So they used gold as bullion. Ya mane ki bullion eneke gold bar thake nohoy. Eto hoise bullion. Aru ei gold bar bu ki kamot ahe? Any idea? Use gold as bullion. Trade. Big trade korute. Land kinute. No? Land kinute tetia bullion di dile. Duta bullion di dile ei ebigha land pai gol. So tenekwa land kinute ba big trade korute. Teneke use kore aru. Coins thake day to day. Coins bu ki hoy day to day use hoy. ঠিক আছে so coins are bullion মাজত এটা difference big deals korte bullion use kore aru day to day barter system of cholai dise ba onno kiba kori istemal korise enukwa aru. So hetu understanding apnar hobo lagibo the Satavahanas may have used gold as bullion, for they did not issue gold coins. Gold coin issue kora nasile as the Kushans did. It is an important technical point. They issued most coins of lead, which is found in Deccan. Lead or basically coins issue korisile. They also issued potin, copper, bronze money. The Ishvakus also issued their coins. Both the Satavahanas and Ishvakus seem to have exploited the mineral resources of Deccan. Ishvakus another dynasty hoy. Etia, the people of Deccan knew the art of paddy transplantation. Paddy transplantation to etiao paddy transplantation kori kore guti nihise eneke kothia loi pine kore. So etu ki koy wet paddy cultivation buliu koy. Eketai kotha paddy transplantation toke wet paddy cultivation kore azileke etwe kori ase manu bilake. So teoloke paddy transplantation janisile in the first 2 centuries area between Krishna and Godavari. Etu hol Krishna Godavari doab ya karne fight hobo. Especially at the mouths of 2 rivers from the great rice bowl. So iman dangor rice bowl da form hoise yat iman khini rice yat utponno hoise ya karne to definitely fight choli thakibo. The people of Deccan also produce cotton. In the foreign accounts, Andhra is considered to be famous for its cotton products. Etialeke ami janu je Andhrat cotton products hoy. Thus, a good portion of Deccan developed a very key advanced rural economy. According to Pliny kun asile? Who was Pliny? Kuma kau paribo? Teor rajyotu kun ase Pliny rajyokhon? Roman, yes it is. Pliny Roman writer asile. Teor Roman officer asile. Thik ase Pliny writer or officer asile. The Andhra kingdom maintained an army of 1 lakh infantry, 2,000 cavalry, 1,000 elephants. Apparently, the peasants produced enough to support this military strength. So surplus definitely asile. Nahole iman 1 lakh infantry bohi kene khwa paribo. Right? Teoloke jetia practice kori thakibo. Ki practice koribo teoloke? Answer writing nahoy. Tetia dinot beleg practice asile. Teoloke ধনু প্ৰেক্টিস কৰিছিলে বা গদা প্ৰেক্টিস কৰিছিলে তেনেকুৱা ধৰণৰ প্ৰেক্টিস কৰিছিলে জাঠি জেভলিন থ্ৰো প্ৰেক্টিস কৰিছিলে মেবি though through contacts with the north of the people of the Deccan learned the use of coins burnt bricks aru ring wells coins burnt brick or ring wells prothom ketia ulaise ring wells apnai jane neki First ring wells ketia ulaise India Maurya times ne post Maurya times Mauryan period okay very good These elements of material life had become quite important in North India by 300 BC a coins nohole nosole aru burned bricks nohole nosole aru ring wells nohole nohoy aru So ekita quite common or quite important hoy goise he homoy. But they acquired importance in Deccan a couple of centuries later. So couple of centuries later Maurya ogowan pisot ahise na Satvahana tetia he ebu kotha gom paise coins of bikhoy gom paise burnt bricks ring wells. In Peddabankur in Karimnagar district we find regular use of fire baked bricks use of flat perforated roof tiles mane ki janane e futa thoka roof tiles এটো মই ভাবি আছিলো roof tiles এনেকে ফুটা ফুটা থকা এটো কৰি পিনে কি লাভ আছে সো এটো সিলিংত যদি পারফোরেটেড থাকে তেতিয়া হেৰি হয় এই সাউন্ড টু কম হয় নয়েজ কম হয় সো সাউন্ড টু এবজর্ব কৰি লয় পারফোরেটেড টাইলস বিলাকে আৰু ওয়ালতো লগাব পাৰে ওয়ালত যদি লগায় তেতিয়া হলে এটো ডিজাইনৰ এলিমেন্টৰ কাৰণে ইউজ কৰে আৰু সো পারফোরেটেড roof tiles তেওঁলোকে ইউজ কৰিব জানিছিলে all this must have contributed to lasting structures so এইবিলাকৰ প্ৰশ্ন UPSC হতিব নোৱাৰে so don't worry এখিনি just continuity কাৰণে পঢ়ি গৈছো আৰু what is further remarkable is the fact that 22 brick wells belonging to the 2nd century studio বিলাকত থাকে yes so তেতিয়া হয়তো মানুহ বিলাকে ঘৰটোত শুনিবলৈ কেনেকুৱা লাগে মাতটো হেতু হয়তো ধ্যান দিছিলে এখানে পারফোরেটেড টাইলস হয়তো লগাইছিলে নহলে ইকো টাইপ হৈ যায় ন ইকো ইত্যাদিবোৰ ৰাখিবলে মেবি Naturally, these facilitated thick habitations, and we find that covered drains underground lead wastewater into showcase pits. So, তেওঁলোকে অকমান ভালকে covered drains ইত্যাদি কৰি মেলি থাকিবলৈ শিকিছিলে আৰু এতিয়া Towns appeared in Maharashtra by the 1st century BC when we find several crafts. They emerged in the Eastern Deccan a century later. Pliny informs us that Andhra country in the Eastern Deccan included 30 walled towns besides numerous villages. 30 kon walled towns poa goise. Several towns of the 2nd and 3rd centuries in this area are known for inscriptions and excavations. Increasing trade is indicated by numerous Roman and Satvahana coins. So Roman coins ahi paisehi. Apnara Roman coins yat paisehi. So hetwe dekhaise je Italy India logot trade korisile hetu সময়ত আমি গ্রিক্স পাইছিল এতিয়ালৈকে এতিয়া রোমান্স সকলক লগ পালো তাৰ মানে কি হল এই গ্রিক্সৰ জায়গাত এৰিয়াটোত রোমান এম্পায়াৰ আহি গল আৰু এতিয়া right so they appeared about a century later in Eastern Deccan in the Krishna Godavari area to barapati পাই আছে এইখিন লাগে নোট কৰিলে সব বস্তু বুলিয়ান হিচাপে ইউজ কৰিছিলে গোলটো Gautamiputra Satkarni note down হৈ গল বৰ বেছি নোট ডাউন কৰিব লগা হোৱা নাই আজি social organization the Satvahanas originally seem to have been a tribe of the Deccan but they were Brahminized and their most famous king Gautamiputra Satkarni claims to have established the fourfold Varna system So hetu eta gorobor বিষয় আছিল তেওঁলোকৰ কাৰণে যে fourfold Varna system to তেওঁ establish কৰিছে which had fallen into disorder কিয় why it had fallen into disorder আগতে তো আছিল এই fourfold Varna system disorder কিয় হৈ গৈছিল any idea Foreigners আহিছিলে right foreigners aha pisot Buddhism eta hobo pare but as you know Buddhism e caste system to himan breakdown kora nasile teloke right so it is because of the foreigners he boasts that he put an end to the intermixture between the people of different social orders So তেওঁ boast কৰিছে যে intermixture to আমি ৰাখাই দিলো হেতু কথা so এতিয়াও মানুহবিলাকে কাষ্ট বেলেগ কাষ্ট হলে মিক্স নকৰে বিয়া নাপাতে এতিয়া লাগে হেতু চলি আছে so হেতু এটা গৌৰৱৰ বিষয় বুলি এতিয়াও বহুত মানুহে ভাবে Such a confusion was obviously caused by the Shaka infiltration and the thin and Shaka infiltration হোৱাৰ কাৰণে এনেকুৱা confusion হৈছে society and superficial Brahmanization of tribes living in the Deccan. So Brahmanization হৈ আছে tribes বিলাকক সেই fourfold varnat লৈ আহিছে Shudras অলে convert কৰা হৈছে. The absorption of the Shakas in Hindu society as Kshatriyas was facilitated by intermarriage between the Shakas and the Satvahanas. The Shakas or Satvahana মাজত intermarriage hoise. Similarly, the indigenous tribal people were more and more acculturated by the Buddhist monks, who were induced by land grants to settle in Western Deccan. It is suggested that traders also supported the Buddhist monks, for the earliest caves seem to have been located on the trade routes. So, traders bilake Buddhist monks bilakok trade routes rakhar ki reason hobo pare? Apnaloke bhabik saoksun. Traders bilake Buddhist monks karne trade routes bonai dise. Rest, spread the culture. Traders bilake saok pura commercially tanloke bhabibo. Buddhist monks bilak karne ghor bonai dise, case bonai dise, বহুত ধুনিয়া কথা কৈছে, dacoity. So traders bilakor main bhoy dacoity karne. So Buddhist monks bilak jodi trade routes dia jay aru usai paje manhu bilakok jodi dhamma kotha hikwa jay tetia hole teoloke dacoity koribo niki, teoloke violence koribo niki? Very good. So hetu e kotha super clear হৈ গল না কথাটো ইয়াত লিখা নাই কিন্তু আপোনালোকে এটো বুজি পাব লাগিব কিয় কৰিছে এবলে এডভান্স কিতাপ বিলাকত আছে এবলে আপোনালোকে পঢ়িলে পাব বাট আপোনালোকে এবোৰ নপঢ়াকে যদি এটো আন্দাজ কৰিব পাৰিছে it is very good. The Satvahanas were the first rulers to make land grants to the Brahmana. এতিয়া লিখিব লাগিব এটো Satvahanas were also the first rulers to make land grants to Brahmanas, although we have more instances of grants being made to the Buddhist monks. Buddhist monks of dan disile, kintu Brahmanas of first land grant arambho korise. So, etu a feudalism or arambhoni bujai dise aru. Land grants diya lage lage feudalism or arambhoni hoy goise. So land becomes important. Agote cattle grant korisile, right? Cattle was property. Etia land grant korise, mane land becomes property. Land property mane ki something which can be sold, no? Something which is valued. Jar value ase, value kore aru sold koribo pare. Kuntu kobo lagibo? Mr. Talukdar? এই ট্ৰেডাৰ্স বিলাকে বুদ্ধিষ্ট মংস বুৰ কিয় ট্ৰেড ৰুটছত হেৰি কৰিছে হেতু নেকি ট্ৰেডাৰ্স বিলাকে বুদ্ধিষ্ট মংস বিলাকক কি কৰিছে সাপোৰ্ট কৰিছে ন পইচা দি পিনে ইনফ্যাক্ট তেওঁলোকে কি কৰিছে আৰ্লিয়েষ্ট কেস বনাই দিছে তাত যাতে এই ট্ৰেড ৰুটত থকা যিবিলাক ট্ৰাইবেল মানুহ আছে তো এই মানুহ বিলাকক কি কৰে ধম্ম শিকাব পাৰে Dhamma mane ki non-violence. Non-violence hole ki hobo? Dacoity no hobo. Hoine? Aru teoloke nije agriculturalist hoy jabo. Agriculture koribo, tax u dibo. So ekane state of all support korise Buddhist monks hokolok. Aru traders bilako support korise Buddhist monk hokolok. So double faida hoy goise. Fourfold varna system to apnaloke jane ki asile fourfold varna system brahmanas kshatriyas vaishyas aru shudras tribal people were outside this so tribal people bilakok yar bhitorole anatoke etoy koise within the fourfold varna system thik ase Clear হল নে? Fourfold Varna system. A Varna system to quote hoy, village ot hoy, right? Village ot ki hoy, village ot manu bilake eneke four Varnas teneke thakibo pare. Kintu jetia forest ot thakibo, the forest ot thakile you cannot have this fourfold Varna system. When forest ot thakile you have to hunt all the time, you have to fish all the time. আৰু হেতু সবৰে একেলগে সবে যাব লাগিব এনেকুৱা ক'ব নোৱাৰে মই হান্টিং নকৰো মই প্ৰিষ্ট হয় মই হান্টিং নকৰো ক্ষত্ৰিয় হয় এনেকৈ ক'ব নোৱাৰিব সো ভিলেজত থাকিলে কি হ'ব ভিলেজত থাকিবলৈ এগ্ৰিকালচাৰ কৰিব লাগিব এগ্ৰিকালচাৰ কৰিলে ট্যাক্স দিব আৰু ট্যাক্স দিলে ষ্টেটক সাপোৰ্ট হ'ব সো হে কাৰণে এই কথাখিনি আছিল যিমান ট্ৰাইবেল মানুহ আছে সবকে এই সিস্টেমত ফোৰফল বৰ্ণা সিস্টেমত আনিবলৈ চেষ্টা কৰিছিল তেওঁলোকক গাঁৱত থকা সুবিধা কৰিব কৈছিলে গাঁৱত বেছি ভাল হয় থাকিবলৈ এনেকৈ কৈছিলে তো হেতু কথা এটো আমি গম পালো যে সাতবাহনৰ সময়তে ফাৰ্স্ট ল্যান্ড গ্ৰান্টস স্টাৰ্ট হৈছে according to dharma shastras it was the function of the kshatriyas to rule but the Satvahanas called themselves brahmanas Gautami putra boasts that he was the true brahmana হেবলি কৈছিলে কিন্তু ধৰ্মশাস্ত্ৰৰ মতে ক্ষত্ৰিয় ৰুল কৰে গৌতমী পুত্ৰই নিজকে কিন্তু ব্ৰাহ্মণ বুলি কৈছিলে since the andhras were identified with the early Satvahanas probably they were a local tribe who were converted to brahmanism so andhras pur Satvahana সকল local tribe আছিলে যি সকল brahmanismলৈ convert হৈছে the orthodox brahmanas of the north looked upon the Andhras as a mixed caste. So, jiblak orthodox brahmanas asile northor, teoloke bor security dia nasile, aru mixed caste bili koise, mixer, misal, ki bili kore, misaler, bhezal. This shows that the Andhras were a tribal people who were brought within the fold of Hindu society as a mixed caste. তো এইখিনি পৰ ইমান প্ৰশ্ন হোদাৰ স্কোপ নাই increasing craft and commerce in this period brought many merchants and artisans to the forefront so merchants আৰু artisans বিলাক আগলে আহিছে মানে আগতে আমি merchants artisans বোৰ ইমান বেছি forefrontত নাছিলে তেওঁলোকে backgroundত আছিলে এতিয়া merchants becomes important artisans become important Merchants took pride in naming themselves after the towns to which they belonged. So, jikhon town asile tar townor boli kobole bhal pae aru. Both artisans and merchants made generous donations to Buddhist cause. So, yar reason to ami gom palo hidden reason to ki. They set up small memorial tablets. Among the artisans, the Gandhikas মানে perfumers perfume ji hokole deal kore perfume ji hokole trade kore are repeatedly mentioned as donors at a larger stage the term Gandhika became so general as to denote all kinds of shopkeepers the modern title Gandhi is derived from this ancient term So Gandhika pra ahise Gandhi aru hetu kotha. So perfumers bilake bahut beshi donate korisile. So perfumes bilakor luxury item asile etiao hoy. So yar pra bahut beshi profit hoy. Aru perfumes kite use koribo. Jetia manu bilake you know war time to perfumes use nokore manu. Jetia hanti thakibo peace thakibo. So peace of kind it is very important non-violence. So they donated a lot. So Gandhi also non-violence support korisile, right? The most interesting detail about the Satvahana relates to their family structure. In Aryan society in North India, father enjoyed greater importance than mother. And the princes whom we considered so far seem to have belonged to patriarchal society. এতিয়ালৈকে আমি patriarchal society পাই আছো. But the Satavahanas show traces of matrilineal social structure. Important. Note down কৰিব লাগিব. Satavahanas show traces of matrilineal social structure. Matrilineal social structure কাৰ আছিলে বুলি ক'লে Satavahanale মনত পেলাব লাগিব. It was customary for their king to be named after his mother. Such names as Gautami Putra, Vashishti Putra indicate that in their society, mother enjoyed a great deal of importance. At present, in peninsular India, the son's name includes a part of the father's name, but in it there is no place of mother. Queens made important religious gifts in their own right, and some of them acted as regents. এতিয়া আপোনালোক womenৰ statusৰ ওপৰত essay লিখিলে এই কথাবোৰ বহুত important হ'ব যে queens made important religious gifts in their own right, and some of them acted as regents. যেনেকে আপোনালোকে বাহুবলী দেখিছে নহয় শিৱগামী was a regent, no? যেতিয়া কিং নাছিলে তেওঁৱে ৰুল কৰিছিলে যেতিয়া কিং ডাঙৰ হৈছিলে তেতিয়া তেওঁ শাসন ভাৰটো দি দিছিলে. But basically the Satavahana ruling family was patriarchal because the succession to the throne passed to the male member. So in ancient India we can see mother being revered because mother namot sons bilakor nambur rakhisile. এই কথাটো আমি গম পালো আৰু কুইন্স বিলাকৰ নিজে কেতিয়াবা নিজৰ ৰাইটত ৰিলিজিয়াছ গিফট দিছিলে তেওঁ কাকো সুধিব নালাগে. So she had a lot of independence also. So you can see. So acted as regents also কাম কৰিছিলে তেনেকুৱা কথা. So এইখিনিলৈকে ক্লিয়াৰ হৈ গ'ল নোট কৰিলে সব কথা. ইজি হয় আৰু ইন্টাৰেষ্টিং হয় মানুহে এটো ভালকে মন দি এবাৰ পঢ়িলে হৈ যায় মানুহ নপঢ়াৰ কাৰণে ইয়াৰ পৰা কোৱেশ্চনবোৰ আহিলে মানুহ থটমট খাই যায়. এটা pattern of administration. The Satavahana rulers strove for the royal ideals set forth in the Dharma Shastras. So Dharma Shastras যেনেকুৱা কৈছিলে তেনেকে শাসন কৰাটো বিচাৰিছিলে. The king was represented as the upholder of dharma. ধৰ্ম ৰক্ষা কোনে কৰিব? কিঙে কৰিব. আৰু ধৰ্ম মানে কি? এই fourfold varna systemত থাকিব লাগে. A fourfold varna system supports kingship, right? Kingot support কৰিবলৈ যেটো economic আছে এটো social base ত আছে. Social base provides the economic base. So এখানে এই system টো ৰখাটো বহুত বেছি important আছিলে. Tribal society যদি গুছি যায় তেতিয়া কি হ'ব? What will happen যদি এই fourfold varna system টো গুছি আকৌ tribal society আহি যায়? What will happen then? এটো ক'ব লাগিব এতিয়া. By use of logic. What will happen যদি fourfold varna system টো ৰক্ষা নহয় আৰু আকৌ tribal society লে গুছি যায় বা বেলেগ কিবা society লে গুছি যায় তেতিয়া কি হ'ব? No idea? Treasury well কমি যাব, very good. No heads, king or power কমি যাব. Trade, agriculture, tax এইবোৰ নাথাকিব, yes. Ultimately গৈ পিনে king or downfall হৈ যাব যদি ধৰ্ম ৰক্ষা কৰিব নোৱাৰে. Very good. Very proud that you have understood. To him were assigned a few divine attributes. Divine attributes আছে তেওঁৰ ওচৰত. এই divine origin of king to ক'ৰ পৰা আহিছে আমি পঢ়িছিলো নহয় ক'ব পাৰিবনে? Divine origin of kings কেতিয়াৰ পৰা আৰম্ভ হৈছে? মনত আছে আপোনালোকৰ? Divine kingship ৰজা অশোকাৰ টাইমত নেকি? Indo-Greeks. Indo-Greeks is correct. Indo-Greeks of it কোন হয়? Kushans নেকি? Kushans বলে কৈছিলে নে Indo-Greeks বলে কৈছিলে? Kushans. Okay. The king was represented as upholder of dharma. To him was assigned a few divine attributes. Divine attributes আছে তেওঁৰ. The Satvahana king is represented as possessing qualities of ancient gods such as Ram, Bhim, Kesava, Arjuna, etc. So, divine gun, Horgyo, mane Bhagavanor gun ase তেওঁৰ লগত, কাৰ ওচৰত, কিঙৰ ওচৰত. So, king or Bhagavanor ওচৰত কৰি দিছে মানে. Kesava কোন হয়? Kesava, who is Kesava? Keshav, who is Kesava? He is compared, very good Krishna, he is compared in prowess and lustre to these legendary figures and to supernatural forces. This was evidently meant to attribute divinity to the Satvahana king. Teteha question nokorbo kuno. The Satvahanas kept some of the administrative units found in Ashokan times. Their district was called Ahara, as it was known in the time of Ashoka. So Ashoka time to Ahara boli koisile, etia Ahara. So Ahara to ki hoy, hetu important hoy jay, note down koilo. Their officials were known as Amatyas and Mahamatras as they were known in Maurya time. So bhal hol apnalok karone bor beshi digdar nidile notun nam nai, but Ahara to district je hetu likhilo. So etu eneko hoiba Mauryan times district to ki boli koisile ba Ahara boli di dibo. What is Ahara? So tolot di dibo food ba utensils used in pre-Vedic times eneke di dibo kiba kibi. Tapsot dibo district. Ahara to note down koilo le. But we notice certain military and feudal elements. Feudal ahi goise. In the administration of Satvahanas, it is significant that Senapati was appointed provincial governor. Province or governor kak dise, Senapatik dise. Since the tribal people in Deccan were not thoroughly Hinduized and reconciled to the new rule, it was necessary to keep them under strong military control. Necessary to keep them under strong military control. So hetu karone ki korisile, military governors rakhisile, ar military governors rakhi তেওঁলোকক যদি land grant di dia hoy, hetue hoi jabo feudal system. Right? Etu kotha. The administration in the rural areas was placed in the hands of Golmika, who was the head of military regiment. So jeneke Gramini asile agote. Gramini rural or head asile. Eta Golmika. Golmika was the head of military regiment consisting of 9 chariots, 9 elephants, 25 horses or 45 foot soldiers. So jijon gaor head asile teoko eta horu military unit eta di disile. Ar teor naam to ki asile Golmika. So ei term to note down korilok, ebilake hodi thake Golmika kun asile. Administration of rural areas, village headman buliu ko pare, but teo army horu unit ta teo di dia hoisile. The head of army platoon was therefore posted in the countryside to maintain peace and order. So yat apnaloke military aspect dekhise, military manhu ejonok village or daitto di dise. Kyo military daitto dibo lagia hoisile? Why? Eto ami already palu, but apnaloke note korile na hetu saisu. Military manhu ejonok village ot kyo rakhibo lagia hoisile? Why do you think? Sadvana সকলে এনেকুৱা ধৰণৰ এটা সিস্টেম কিয় আনিবলগীয়া হ'ল? Yes, to maintain law and order. Very good. কাৰণ কি এই যে fourfold varna system to ভালকে establish হোৱা নাছিলে, এতিয়াও tribal type of villages আছিলে, so মানুহবিলাকে বৰ কথা তেনেকে নামানিছিলে, right? So হেতু কাৰণে military ৰাখিবলগীয়া হৈছিলে, কিন্তু যেতিয়া এনেকুৱা fourfold varna system থাকে, মানুহবিলাকে নিজৰ কৰ্মটো নিজৰ ধৰ্ম হিচাপে কৰি থাকে, তেতিয়া একো টেনচন নাই আৰু যদি এনেকুৱা মানুহ ওলাই যে মই খেতি কৰিছো মই কিয় দিম এনেকুৱা ধৰণৰ কথা যদি কৈ দিয়ে সেই কাৰণে মিলিটাৰী ৰুল লাগিছিলে, ৰাইট? কথা কলে নুবুজে, সো এই কাৰণে দণ্ড দিব লাগে, তেনেকুৱা কথা। এই কাৰণে অনবৰতে ৰাখিব লগা হৈছিলে, যি কথা কলে মানে তেওঁলোকক মিলিটাৰী ৰুল নালাগে আৰু সৰুতে ল'ৰা ছোৱালীবিলাকক মাৰে নহয়, সিহঁতি কথা কলে বুজি নাপায়, এছআইয়ে গতি এনেকুৱা টাইপ তেনেকুৱা। এতিয়া ডাঙৰ হলে তাৰপিছত নামাৰে আৰু তেতিয়া কথা কলে বুজি পাই যায়, একদম শাসনৰ আণ্ডাৰত আহি যায়। The military character of Satvahana rule is also evident from the common use of such terms as Kataka, Skandavaras in their inscriptions. These were military camps and settlements which served as administrative centers so long as king was there. Thus, coercion played an important part in the Satvahana administration. Coercion played an important role, important part in Satvahana. Coercion মানে কি? Coercion মানে কি হয়? তোমরা কব নি coercion? Force, yes, force. Yes. Force use কৰিবলগীয়া হৈছিলে, কাৰণ কি টেক্স নাপাইছিলে নহলে force use নকৰিলে। এতিয়া আপোনালোকে ইমান civilized হৈ গল যে you did not need to coercion নালাগে টেক্স লবলে, এতিয়া বহুত systematic হৈ গল আৰু একো প্ৰবলেম নাই। So you think that tax দিয়াটো এটা duty হয়, most of you, so হেনেকে সবে দিয়েও, সেইকাৰণে মান ফোর্স কৰিব নালাগে কৰ টেক্সটো, বাট সাতবাহানাস দিগদাৰ পাইছিলে অকমান টেক্সটো উলিয়াবলে, so সেইকাৰণে ফোর্স ইউজ কৰিবলগীয়া হৈছিলে। Satvahanas started the practice of granting tax-free villages to the Brahmanas and Buddhist monks. So এইটো কথা নকলো হ'ব, এতিয়া গম পাই গল যে tax-free villages দিবলগীয়া হৈ গৈছিলে, উপায় নাপায়। কাক? To the Brahmanas আৰু Buddhist monks. Now you know যে কিয় হল কথাটো। Feudal এতিয়া আহি গৈছে, কিয় আহি গৈছে feudal? Because এই new areas of মানুহবিলাকক কেনেকে কব যে ট্যাক্স দিব লাগে বুলি, so হে হাখনত আনিবলে feudal system টো আনিবলগীয়া হৈ গল। These cultivated fields and villages granted to them were declared free from molestation by royal policemen. Police আহি পিনে আৰু soldiers আহি পিনে অত্যাচাৰ নকৰে, আৰু all kind of royal officers একো নকৰে, so এটো free কে দি দিছে। These areas therefore became small independent islands within the Satvahana kingdom. Possibly the Buddhist monks also preached peace and rules of good conduct. A good conduct hikabole manhok. Good conduct is very important. Aru among the people they lived with and taught them to respect political authority and social order. Hekarne religion becomes so important in politics. So hekarne Napoleon famous eta line ase যে যদি চার্চটো নাথাকিলে হেতেন তেতিয়াহলে মই এটা চার্চ বনাই লব লাগে হলতেন, হেবলি কৈছে আমাৰ নেপোলিয়নে। তো রিলিজিয়নে কি কৰে? রিলিজিয়নে যেনেকে ভক্তি ভাৱটো আনে, আৰু এই ভক্তি ভাৱ থাকিলেহে you respect political authority, হয়নে? So it is very important. ইয়াতে চাও উপায় নাপায় এটা কি হৈছে, religious grants দিবলগীয়া হৈ গৈছে, because people are not religious. The Brahmanas, of course, help enforce the rules of the Varna system. So, Rozar kotha namanile, পাপ লাগিব এনেকুৱা ধৰণৰ কথা যেতিয়া বুজি পাই গৈছিলে মানুহবিলাকে তেতিয়া বুজি পাই গৈছিলে একেবাৰে which made society stable মানে কি ট্যাক্স দিয়া society আৰু so it is সেইটোৱে আৰু এই socialization বুলি কয় না socialization ডাঙৰ কথা মানিবি এইটো কথা পলিটিক্স তো বেয়া বস্তু লেটাৰ বস্তু ডাঙৰ কথা মানিবি এই গোটেইবোৰ ভগৱানক মানিবি এই গোটেইবোৰে হেল্প কৰে to establish the social order which is required for the kings to survive. So আমি এটা কথা গম পালো যে ব্ৰাহ্মণাস আৰু monks সবকে land free of cost free of tax grant দি দিছিলে just যাতে social order থাকে political authority যাতে respect কৰিবলৈ শিকে এইবোৰ কথাৰ কাৰণে varna system যাতে শিকি যায় ঠিক আছে এইখিনিলৈকে ক্লিয়াৰ কনসেপ্ট সবৰে yes no yes the Satvahana kingdom had 3 grades of feudatories feudatories মানে যিসকল land grant পায় তেওঁলোক feudatories হয় highest grade was formed by the king who was called Raja and who had the right to strike coins. Number 1. Number 2 was formed by Mahabhoja and the third grade by Senapati. Mahabhoja ki jani Raja type asle kintu nijor coin nije strike koribo নোৱাৰে. Third grade Senapati. It seems that these feudatories and landed beneficiaries enjoyed some authority in their respective localities. So this is important for you to note down. Tinta type of feudatories are named Raja. Raja ki asile right to strike coins koribo pare. Second grade Mahabhoja or third Senapati. Full of information NCERT. Please note down ekhini. Mahabhoja kun hoy Mahabhoja was a landed beneficiary mane zamindar boli kobo pare so he karone ei horu raja asile karone the king will be called Maharaja Dhiraj they were acting alongside the main feudal lords yes main feudal lords apunar raja jon jodi feudal lord boli koy tetile second grade ejon third grade senapati enakar 3 grades Modern Hoigol religion the Satvahana rulers claim to have been Brahmanas and they represented the march of triumphant Brahmanism from the very beginning kings and queens performed the Vedic sacrifices called Ashwamedha, Vajpeya, etc. Ashwamedha, Vajpeya, jane apnaloke. Vajpeya to ki hoy? Vajpeya to jane nahi konobai? Ashwamedha to baru thik ase. Vajpeya to? No. এইটো বিষয় পঢ়া নাছিলো chariot race কৰিছিলে নেকি হেৰি common people মাজত আৰু chariot race কৰাইছিলে নেকি হেতু বাসপেয় নহয় জানো they were etu sabole apna note kori thoise apnaloke worshipped a large number of Vaishnava gods such as Krishna, Vasudeva and others they paid liberal sacrificial fees to the Brahmanas so Brahmanas of sacrificial fees disile Satvahana religion is basically Brahmanism However, However, the Satvahana rulers promoted Buddhism by granting land to the monks. Aru besi land to Buddhist সকলকে দিছিলে. In their kingdom, the Mahayana form of Buddhism commanded considerable following, especially the artisan class. Nagarjunakonda and Amaravati in Andhra Pradesh became important seats of Buddhist culture under the Satvahanas. So এতিয়া বুদ্ধিজমটো সাউথত সাতবাহানাজ সকলে পেট্ৰনাইজ কৰিলে হেতু কাৰণে আমাৰাৱতী আৰু নাগাৰ্জুনকোণ্ডাত বুদ্ধিষ্ট এইবোৰ এৰিয়াজ হৈ গ'ল মানে became important seats of Buddhist culture. And more so under their successors, the Ishvakus. Satvahanas or follower, successor asile Ishvakus asile. Similarly, Buddhism flourished in Nasik and Junar areas in the western Deccan in Maharashtra, where it seems they have been supported by traders. Nasik or Junar to traders or karne famous hol. আর বাকি নাগাৰ্জুনকোণ্ডা আৰু আমাৰাৱতী সাতবাহানা সকলে support কৰাৰ কাৰণে same as Rajasuya where king and queen sits on chariot with 7 horses and travel to conquered area. Okay, watch pair. Very thank you Mr. Das. So etu kotha hoy gol etu কোনোবাই চিনি পায় না এটো কি হয় মান ধুনিয়া any idea chaitya yes chaitya আৰু এটো কাৰ্লেৰ chaitya হয় কাৰ্লে chaitya at Karle. Architecture Satvahana phase of ki hoisile many temples and monasteries were cut out of solid rock in northwestern Deccan and Maharashtra with great skill and patience. Iman dhuniyage katibole kiman patience lagibo bhabok ar kiman skill lagibo okoman kati gole etu statue tu nobonile aru In fact, the process had started about a century earlier from 200 BC. The two common structures were the temple, which was called Chaitya, and the monastery, which was called Vihara. The Chaitya was a large hall with a number of columns. And the Vihara consisted of a central hall entered by a doorway from a veranda in the front. Vihara hoise monastery jot mane monks bur asile নহয় জানো monk bur thokatu Vihara hoy The famous Chaitya is that of Karle in the western Deccan. It is about 40 meters long, 15 meters wide and 15 meters high. It is a most impressive specimen of massive rock architecture. It is rock architecture boli kole aru etu side log etu sculpture depicting worship of Buddha's footprints. Etu kot ase Amaravati. Eya Buddha's footprint aru Buddha's footprint to worship korise eloke. Etu Amaravati aru Nagarjunakonda. Nagarjunakondat eya Buddha's first sermon. Buddha's sermon. Buddhae sermon di ase. এই মানুহবিলাকে শুনি আছে তো এটো আহিছে নাগাৰ্জুনকোণ্ডাৰ পৰা আমাৰাৱতী আৰু নাগাৰ্জুনকোণ্ডা কোন ষ্টেটত আছে এবাৰ কৈ দিব Andhra Pradesh is the correct answer. The viharas or monasteries were excavated near the chaityas for the residence of monks in the rainy season. The viharas were excavated মানে কি কৰিছিলে stone cut asile rock cut asile at Nasik we have 3 viharas since they carry the inscriptions of Nahapana and Gautamiputra it seems they belong to the 1st 2nd centuries AD first 2nd centuries asile এই নাসিক বিহাৰা rock cut architecture এই গুটেইবোৰ যে পঢ়ি আছে এইবিলাকৰ ওপৰতে প্ৰশ্ন হদিব যে philosophy আৰু tradition reflect হৈছে আমাৰ architecture so এইখিনি কথা লিখিব লাগিব rock cut architecture is also to be found in Andhra in the Krishna Godavari region but the region is really famous for independent Buddhist structures independent Buddhist structures mane ki hoy rock cut nohoy aru the most important of these monuments are the stupas distributed over area of 125 km all around Ellora the most famous of them are Amaravati and Nagarjuna Konda the stupa was a large round structure erected over some relic of Buddha. The Amaravati stupa began in about 200 BC but was completely reconstructed in the second half of the 2nd century. So Amaravati eta stupa ase. Its dome measured 53 meters across the base and it seems to have been 33 meters in height. The Amaravati stupa is full of sculptures which depict various scenes from the life of Buddha. Nagarjunakonda prospered most under the Ishvakus, the successors of the Satvahanas. It contains not only Buddhist monuments but also the earliest Brahminical brick temples. So here brick temples apnalage dekhibo paile earliest Brahminical brick temples kod ase Nagarjunakonda ekhin lage hoy gol clear sobore no doubts language the official language of the Satvahanas was Prakrit so Prakrit to official language asile Satvahanas all inscriptions were composed in this language and written in the Brahmi script etia ami official language India ki hoy what is the official language of India and what is the national language of India official language of India ki hoy 22 official languages. Very good answer. There are 22 languages official. National language Hindi. No national language. India. Indian national language hobo nware. Eta language ami lua nai. Eta national language korile bahut civil war hoy jabo. Official language ase but national language nai. Very good. Acha, amar Hindi je ase, Hindi script to ki hoy? Ami jane ke Prakrit in Brahmi script, Hindi in ki script. Assamese to ki script, Assamese to? Assamese language to ki script or likha hai? No idea. Magadhi Prakrit boli koise. Brajavali. Eto Assamese script to Magadhi Prakrit boli koise neki? Prakrita script ase jano. Eto amar Assamese scholars সকলে কৈছে যেটো আমি বৰ্তমানে যেটো স্ক্ৰিপ্ট লৈ আছো অসমীয়াৰ Hetu script is totally derived from Bengali script. Bengali jitu script ase. Tat ami khali raw to petu kota etu change korile amar pandit hokole. Kintu amar jitu original script asile hetu stop hoi gol mane. Original jitu Assamese script ahi asile hetu stop kori jetia printing press arambo hol tetia they needed a script no letters bu likhibole to Bengali script to loi ahile. So that is a sad part. Etia ami jitu script loisu hetu Eastern Nagari বুলি কৈছে একে হয় তো এইবোৰ আপোনারা অকমান জানিব লাগে ডিটেইলস because আপোনালোকে APSC দিব so you must somehow know this. As was the case in Ashokan times, some Satvahana kings may have composed Prakrit books. One Prakrit text, Gatha Saptasati is attributed to a Satvahana king called Hala. So etu note kori lo karu. Gatha Saptasati Satvahana king e likhise or NCERT mention ase, so you must note it down. Yapa hudibole beya napabo. Gatha Saptasati kune likhise Hala is a Satvahana king. Eta option hisabe ahi jabo duta tinta sentence bitot eta sentence eto thakibo pare individual question hisabe nahileu. It consisted 700 verses all written in Prakrit language to likhilao Prakrit, but it seems to have been finally retouched much later, possibly after 6th century AD. So ekhin lage amar clear hoy gol Satvahanas সকল matrilineal touch upon asile aru teoloke land grants arambo korisile, so hekarne you cannot miss out on the Satvahanas even if you wish to. Aru teolokor fights kar logot mainly hoy asile Satvahana sokolor. A prashna bilako sauk. Give an account of art and religion in Satvahana dominions. Enukabu prashna ahi jabo pare. So apnalage jibu note banaise hebilakor ভিত্তি কৰি আপোনালোকে লিখিব পাৰিব 150 words আহিব আহিলে তো 150 words আপোনালোকে কেটামান জানিলেই হৈ যায় আপোনালোকে লিখি গম পাইছে যে very less to write no একাৰণে অকমান information is less is more. It a dawn of history in deep south ami sabo lage. Satvahana to Andhra asile Andhrat ko ami tolor phale jam aru. A megalithic burial Satvahana to sabor clear hoy gol yes Sakas megalithic background. Several elements mark the beginning of the historical period. These are settlements of large-scale rural communities which carry on plough agriculture with the help of iron implements, formation of state system, rise of social classes, use of writing, beginnings of written literature. Ekhine historical period of husona kore. Thik ase? All these phenomena are not found at the tip of peninsula with the Kaveri Delta as the nuclear zone till about the 2nd century BC. Up to this period, the upland portion of the peninsula were inhabited by people who were called megalith builders. So likha likhi ei bostu khini 2nd century BC lage nasile ei part 2 peninsula ekdam tolor part 2 তেওঁলোকৰ কোনে ইনহেবিট কৰিছিলে megalith builders আমি জানো. They were not known not for their actual settlements which are rare but from their graves. আমি graves বিলাকৰ পৰাহে তেওঁলোকক জানো megalithic builders বুলি. নহলে settlements আমি তেনেকে পোৱা নাই. These graves are called megaliths because they were encircled by big pieces of stone. এটো জানো আমি. They contain not only skeletons of people who were buried, but also pottery and iron objects. Pottery paisu or iron objects paisu. The people use various types of pottery, but black and red ware seems to have been popular with them. So megalithic people black and red ware use korisile. You can note it down. Black and red ware to sotke besi popular asile. Obviously, the practice of burying goods in the graves with the dead bodies was based on the belief that dead would need all these in the next world. So, jibilang mori gol manhu teolokok next world ote bostubur lagibo. Hebuli bhabiye manhu bilake ei bostubur koborot di disile. These goods give us an idea of their sources of livelihood. We find arrowheads, spearheads, and even hoes and sickles, all made of iron. So iron to bahut use korisile. Tridents, which later came to be associated with the Shiva. Tridents mane ki hol? Trishul. Have also been found in the megaliths. So, hey tenukwa. Shiva hoyto bhakta teoloke nasile kintu tridents use korisile. However, compared to the number of agricultural tools that were buried, those meant for fighting, hunting are larger in number. So, agricultural tools iman nasile, jiman fighting, hunting asile. Tamane ki hunting, gathering manhu asile ekhini. Agricultural tools kom poa goise. This should show that megalithic people did not practice an advanced type of agriculture. Agriculture jodio korisile himan advanced type of agriculture kora nasile. Maybe kathere nangol banai pne korisile. The megaliths are found in all upland areas of the peninsula, but their concentration seems to be in eastern Andhra and in Tamil Nadu. Upland mane akoman highland or teoloke asile megalithic burials bari kora manhu bilak. Their beginnings can be traced to circa 1000 BC. Eta ami janisu 1000 BC teolok asile. But in many cases, the megalithic phase lasted from about 5th to the 1st century BC. So 1st century BC, eto homoy lake megalithic builders okol asile. So beginning kimano pa asile 1000 BC para. We are talking about Tamil Nadu, Kerala, ebu area day. So yat ami kunbu manu paisu megalithic builders paisu. Aur teoloke 100 BC lake megalithic manhabu ami paisu. In a few places, this phase persisted even up to early centuries of Christian era. So, andaz hoy gol sobore megalithic manu hokol asile before dawn of history. Dawn of history mane ki a state formation, a je writing, a bilak hoar agot ki hoy asile megalithic builders. Etwe point hoy. Clear? Okay. The Cholas, Pandyas, and Cheras mentioned in Ashokan inscriptions. Chola, Pandya, and Chera mentioned in Ashokan inscriptions were probably in the megalithic phase of material culture. So, teoloke Ashoka time what? Mane Ashoka time kitia 200 something BC. Ashoka period cover monot ase niki? 232 teo tyag korisile nohoy jano? 273 pa 232. Very good. So hetu time ot teoloke a megalithic phase of material phase culture te asile. Teoloke material culture to kenukwa asile megalithic burials teoloke kori asile. The megalithic people in the southern districts of Tamil Nadu had certain peculiar characteristics. Ki asile peculiar characteristics? They buried the skeletons of the dead in urns made of red pottery in pits. Mane tekelit kolohot bhorai তেওঁলোকে bury কৰিছিলে a red pottery in pits. In many cases, these urns were not surrounded by stone circles and grave goods were not too many. The practice of urn burial was different from that of cist burial or pit burial surrounded by stone circles. Which practice prevailed in Krishna Godavari Valley? Krishna Godavari Valley কি কৰিছিলে হে মেগালিথিক ডাঙৰ ডাঙৰ ষ্টোন দিছিলে আৰু তামিলনাডুৰ সাদার্ন ডিস্ট্রিক্টছত কি কৰিছিলে কলহত ভৰাই পুতিছিলে But in any case, in spite of the use of iron, the megalithic people depended partly for settlement and burials on the slopes of hills. So hillsot a megalithic people asile তেওঁলোকে hillsot থাকি ভাল পাইছিলে আইৰন থকা সত্ত্বেও আইৰন থাকিলে মানুহবিলাকে যতে ততে থাকিব পাৰে আৰু বাট এতিয়াও hillsot asile মানুহবিলাক Although the megalithic people produced paddy and ragi, apparently the area of cultivable land used by them was very limited, and generally they did not settle on the plains or lowlands. Plains of settle korn asile তেওঁলোকে generally hills ote তেওঁলোক asile. আৰু অকমান খেতিও কৰিছিলে so advanced ধৰণৰ খেতি তেওঁলোকে কৰা নাই কাৰণ advanced ধৰণৰ খেতি কৰিলে তেওঁলোকে definitely plains ত আহিব আৰু তেওঁলোকৰ আইৰনো আছে ভালকে খেতি কৰিবলৈ but they were mostly hunters gatherers সে আছিল আৰু অকমান খেতি হয়তো কৰি লৈছিলে কেতিয়াবা মন গলে By the beginning of the Christian era or probably a little earlier these people moved from the uplands into fertile river basins Beginning of Christian era মানে 100 beginning of Christian era 1 to 100 AD আৰু খ্ৰীষ্ট জন্মৰ পিছতে আৰু তেওঁলোকে fertile river basinsত আহিব ধৰিলে আৰু এটা কি হল fertile river basin আহি so এয়া হৈছে megalithic burial মানে megalithic burial এটো আগতে আপোনালোকে দেখিছে অলৰেডি So reclaimed marshy deltaic areas under the stimulus of contact with the elements of material culture brought from the north to the extreme end of the peninsula by traders, conquerors, and Jaina and Buddhist monastery missionaries. They came to practice wet paddy cultivation. Etia ebu kotha di dise. Wet paddy cultivation kotha hekai dise. Founded numerous villages and towns and came to have social classes. তেওঁলোকে এফালে তো ধন হুন সম্পত্তি এবু কৰিব হিকিলে লগতে তেওঁলোকৰ ট্ৰাইবেল হে বস্তুটো হেৰুৱাই দিলে कुछ पाना है कुछ खोना है पैडी ट्रांसप्लांटेशन हिकाई दिले ट्रांसप्लांटेशन हिकाई दिया लगे लगे क्रॉप बहुत बाঢ়ি গল क्रॉप बाঢ়ি দিয়াৰ লগে লগে তেওঁলোকে ভিলেজেছত থাকিব ধৰিলে আৰু তাৰ গোটেই কাহিনীখিনি আপোনালোকে জানে আৰু পিছত কি হ'ব আৰু এইবিলাক এই জৈনা বুদ্ধিষ্ট মনাস মানুহবোৰ যে পঠাইছে so these people are also religion is used by some people for their benefit. Clear hole? Yes, no? All this created conditions for the rise of state systems in the deep south, whose history from the 1st century AD can be constructed on the basis of written records supplemented by Greek and Roman accounts and archaeology. So, আমি support কৰিব পাৰো যে এনেকে এইটো সময়ত state system আৰম্ভ হৈছিলে মানুহবিলাকে villagesত থাকিব লৈছিলে তাৰপা towns কৰিব ধৰিলে তাৰপা cities কৰিব ধৰিলে লগে লগে state system আহি গল মানুহবিলাকে এতিয়া stateৰ under থাকিব The 3 early kingdoms. Etia prothom early kingdom kitar naam apnalage already jane. Chola, Pandya, aru Chera. The southern end of the Indian peninsula, situated south of Krishna River, was divided into three kingdoms: Chola, Pandya, aru Chera. Monote roi gol apnalok tothapi likhi lok ebar. Chola, Chera, Pandya. Chera, aru eta naam Kerala. Kerala. The Pandyas are first mentioned by Megasthenes, who says that their kingdom was celebrated for pearls. Eto par prashno hudibo pare, whose kingdom was celebrated for pearls? Karon ki yat supporting evidence is Megasthenes or writing ase. So eto mention likhi lok. Pearls or karne famous Megasthenes e koise. Pearls kune koise bracketot Megasthenes likhi lok. He also speaks of its being ruled by a woman and states that 7-year-old mothers were found in the Pandya country. 7-year-old mothers. So all this sounds exaggerated, but suggests that the Pandya society was matriarchal. The Cholas, Pandyas, and Cheras, all these are mentioned in the inscriptions of Ashoka. Ashoka inscriptions are Ami. Paiso Chola, Chera, Pandya. Chola, Chera, Pandya apnala photo dekhile beshi bhalo holten. Chola, Chera, Pandya. Ekhon ase na amar upor. Tate ami hoyto apnalokor imagination to ahiye gol already. But let us see once again. এইখন চাই ললে আপোনাৰ বেছি ভাল হ'ব পাণ্ডিয়া এটি আমি গম পালো মেট্ৰিয়াৰ্কেল হয় তেওঁলোক চেৰা আৰু চোলা ক্লিয়াৰ সবে চালে yes Chola, Chera, Pandya. Good goal. Chola, Chera, Pandya. But it is clear that their territories lay outside the Mauryan Empire in modern Tamil Nadu or Kerala. So Chola, Chera, Pandya ekolok Maurya ruler under ahan asile hetu ami jano. The Pandya territory occupied the southernmost and southeastern portion of Indian peninsula, and it is roughly the modern districts of Tinnevelly, Ramanad, and Madurai in Tamil Nadu. It had its capital at Madurai. Pandya capital Madurai. Important. Match the following. Which was the Tamil word for Mathura. Mathura to ke Madura. Madurai koisile. Mathurai. So, eto kompale. Madurai. Madurai to ki hoise? Mathura pai naam to loi loise aru. The literature compiled in Tamil academies in the early centuries of the Christian era are called Sangam literature. So, এই সময়তে earliest writings of these states না একিটাই হৈছে সংগম লিটারেচার আপোনালোকে শুনিছে সংগম লিটারেচার এটা গম পালে প্ৰথম হিষ্ট্ৰী আৰম্ভ হোৱা লগে লগে যেটো লিটারেচার লিখিছে তামিলনাডুত এটোৱে হৈছে সংগম লিটারেচার refers to Pandya rulers but it does not give any connected account. One or two Pandya conquerors are mentioned. However, it is evident from this literature that the country was wealthy and prosperous. Wealthy or prosperous hoy, hetu ami gom palu. The Pandya kings profited from trade with Roman Empire and sent embassies to Roman Emperor Augustus. So Pandyan kings sokole trade korisile Roman Empire logot. The Brahmanas enjoyed considerable influence, and Pandya kings performed Vedic sacrifices in early centuries of Christian era. So Vedic কোপা আহিছিলে এৰিয়ান সকলে আনিছিলে এৰিয়ান সকল কোড আছিলে আউটসাইড অফ ইণ্ডিয়া তাৰ পৰা আহি এনেকে আপাৰ ইন্দাজত থাকিলে প্ৰথমতে বহুত বছৰ তাৰ পৰা গংগাত আহিলে তাৰ পৰা এতিয়া গৈ পিনে একদম কাবেৰী পালেগে আৰু তো এতিয়া Vedic sacrifices বু কাবেৰীটো হ'ব ধৰিলে আৰু so that's how it is Roman trade হৈছিলে নোট ডাউন কৰিলে এতিয়া Vedic sacrifices কৰিছিলে Pandyan kings সকলে The Chola kingdom was called Chola Mandalam আৰু Chola Mandalam to English বিলাকে ফুটাব নোৱাৰি Coromandel কৈ পেলালে Coromandel coast মানে Chola Mandalam Coromandel coast আপোনালোকে সকলোৱে জানে It was situated to the northeast of the territory of Pandyas Pandyas সকল ইয়াত আছে আৰু northeast ইয়াত Chola Mandalam তো এটা সকলোৱে জানে It was situated to the northeast of the territory of the Pandyas between Pennar and Vellore rivers. We have some idea of political history of Cholas, whose chief center of political power lay at Urayur. Important. The Chola capital asile Urayur, a place famous for cotton trade. Etu likhilok Cholar capital ki asile Urayur. It seems that in the middle of 2nd century BC, Chola king named Ilara conquered Sri Lanka and ruled over it for nearly 50 years. The Chola king Ilara conquered Sri Lanka, another important. Cholas bur 1000 বছৰ পিছত আমি আকৌ পাম এতিয়া early Cholas কথা আমি পাতি আছো Ilara conquered Sri Lanka. So এইবিলাক আমি কিয় জানিব লাগে কাৰণ কি আপোনালোকৰ দুবাৰে 2020 তে এটা প্ৰশ্ন আহিছে ৰাইট ascending order কৰিবলে so হেকাৰণে আপোনালোকে জানিব লাগিব এইবিলাক The former history of the Cholas begins with a former 2nd century AD with their famous king Karikal, famous king of Chola, who flourished around 100 AD. He found Puhar and constructed 160 kilometers of embankment along Kaveri River. Kaveri River side of Banise aru Karikale Puhar buli ekhon city nirman kori diase important. This was built with the labor of 12,000 slaves who were brought as captives from Sri Lanka. Puhar is identical with Kaveri Pattanam. Etia Kaveri Pattanam jikhon ase ekhon Puhar hoy, which was the Chola capital. Chola capital asile pichole gopne. It was a great center of trade and commerce, and excavations show that it had a large dock. Dock asile, dock kot poa goise Kaveri Pattanamot. Aru Puhar is equal to Kaveri Pattanam. Important. So, South India per questions ahi thake because North Indian people neglect South India and that is counterproductive to UPSC aru ekene hodibo North East kotha hodile to mi parui so amar kane iman ta problem nokore kintu baki bilakok North East kotha hodi mili hol takot pelai di aru Wealth of Cholas was trade in cotton cloth Wealth of Cholas ko pahigo One of the main sources of the wealth of Cholas was ki cotton. Cotton trade karne iman wealth hoi goise. So এটা কথা আপোনালোকে মন কৰিছে যে এই cities বিলাক বহুত fast grow হৈছে, right? Compared to North India. North India dependence কি আছিলে? Agriculture. ইয়াত কি হৈছে? ইয়াত agriculture plus trade. So সোনকালে these areas urban হৈ গ'ল। এইটো ধৰিব পাৰিলে নে আপোনালোকে so far? North India ko yat civilization both fast. তেওঁলোকে megalithic burials কৰি both fast cities develop কৰিব পাৰিলে না? You see, এইখিনি আপোনালোকে appreciate কৰিবলৈ এইখিনি আপোনালোকে বুজি পালে আপোনালোকে কেতিয়াও নাপাহৰে। কাবাৰীপট্টনমটো পাহৰি যাব পাৰে হয়তো, কিন্তু পটককে মনত পৰি যাব পিছতকে ৰিভাইজ কৰিলে। কনসেপ্টটো বুজি পাই গ'লে। They maintain efficient navy maintain কৰিছিলে, which sailed as far as the mouth of Ganga and Irrawaddy, and in later centuries even to Malaya archipelago. So Malaya archipelago মানে আমাৰ Indonesia, Malaysia লৈকে তেওঁলোকে গৈ পাইছেগে। So navy of Cholas was very important. Under Karikal's successors, it a Karikal belonged to which dynasty? এনেকে সুধি দিব, ইমান simple কে সুধিব। So Karikal সুধি দিব, ফলে Chola, Pandya, Chera, Satavahana এনেকে সুধি দিব। So you must be able to answer this আৰু। Under Karikala's successors, the Chola power rapidly declined. Their capital, Kaviripatnam, was overwhelmed and destroyed. Their two neighboring powers, the Cheras and Pandyas, extended at the cost of Cholas. So Cholas ebar karone naika hoy goise, ako 1000 pisot laboge. What remained of Chola power was almost wiped out by attacks of Pallavas from the north. So arrangement ahi gol Chola Pallavas. So you will Pallavas is later. Pallavas of the north attack korile Chola. From the 4th to the 9th century AD, the Cholas played only a marginal part in South Indian history. So technically 1000 year নহয়, 4th century পৰা 9th century layer. যিমানখিনি আছে, so ইয়াতে silent হৈ থাকে Cholas বিলাক। আকৌ 9th century আকৌ rise হয় Cholas বিলাক। So you see. এইখিনিলে ক্লিয়াৰ হ'ল, Pallavas বিলাকে attack কৰিলে Chola বিলাকক। So Chola Pallava ভিতৰত Pallava পিছত হয়, Chola আগত হয়। এইখিনি গম পালে হৈ গ'ল। The Chera or the Kerala country was situated to the west and north of the land of Pandyas. West or north of asile Chera. It included the narrow strip of land between sea and the mountains and covered a portion of modern Kerala state. In the early centuries of the Christian era, the Chera country was as important as the country of Cholas and Pandyas. Cheras bilako bahut important asile. It owed its importance. Kyo? Ek second. Ahile. Okay, Kotasilu. In the early centuries of Christian era, the Chera country was as important as the country of Cholas and Pandyas. Our Romans logot trade korisile. The Romans set up 2 regiments at Muziris, identical with Kraganor in Chera country to protect their interest. So at that 2 regiments established korisile Muziris, Romans bilake. So long before the Portuguese came, you see, Romans bilake regiments arambho kori dise. This is important for you. It is said that they also built there a temple of Augustus. Augustus are a temple. So you see temple kyo build kore apnalage sobe gom paise temple. Augustus temple build korise tar pisot ar Roman samrajyo under anibole start kori dise. So হেতু নহলগে পিছলে আৰু কিন্তু at least এটো গম পাই যে 2 regiments at Muziris identical with Kranganore in Chera's country. The most important event in the political history of the Cheras was their fight against the Cholas. Although the Cheras killed the father of Chola king Karikala, the Chera king also lost his life. Later, the two kingdoms temporarily came to terms and concluded a matrimonial alliance. Biya baru pata hol teolokor majot. The Chela king next allied himself to the Pandya rulers against the Cholas. But the Cholas defeated the allies, and it is said that the Chera king was wounded in the back. He committed suicide out of shame. পিঠিত তেওঁ wound হল আৰু হেতু কাৰণে তেওঁ suicide কৰিলে out of shame. According to Chera poets, the greatest king, Sengutu I, the Red Chera, greatest king বুলি কৈ দিছে আৰু তেওঁ নোট ডাউন কৰিব লাগিব. Sengutu I, the Red Chera. তবে লিখি লওক এটো. Cheraৰ famous king জনৰ নাম জানিলে বহুত আৰু. Sengutu I. He routed his rivals and established his cousin securely to the throne. It is said he invaded the north and crossed the Ganga. But all these seem exaggerated. After the 2nd century AD, the Chera power declined and we have nothing of its history again till 8th century AD. Ako 8th century AD le ami rokhibo laibo, ako ebar rise hobo Chera bilakor. The main interest of the political history of these three kingdoms lies in the continuous wars they fought with one another and also with Sri Lanka. So nijor majot to fight korisile Chola Chera Pandya logote Sri Lanka logoto fight korisile. Although the wars weakened these states, wars bilake ei states kita weaken kori disile. So etu eta beautiful picture of Pompeii Lakshmi. So we'll discuss this. They very much profited from their natural resources and foreign trade. These kingdoms were immensely rich. So a rich kopara hol apnalage eta gom pale. Rich because of trade. Aru agriculture also, because they learned agriculture from the north, material culture from the north. Aru logote trade to hoy gol jetia, they could be very, very rich. They grew spices, especially pepper. A mohan spice to apnalage first time ahi gol India. Mane India mane ki apnalage studied pepper, which was in great demand in the Western world. Their elephants supplied ivory, which was highly valued in the West. The sea yielded pearls and their mines produced precious stones. Precious stones, south of precious stones. Aru pearls, money, mukuta, kiman luxury items asile. Spices, ivory. A Westot বহুত বেছি value আছিল এইবিলাকৰ. Pearls, stones. In addition, they produced muslin and silk. Muslin to ami saisilu modern India pohute আৰু silk. এই resources বিলাকে তেওঁলোকক বহুত বেছি ধনী কৰিছিলে trade কৰিবলে. হেকানে ৰোমৰ মানুহ আহি গৈছিলে. Precious stones দৰকাৰ হৈছিলে মানুহবিলাকক. Silk দৰকাৰ হৈছিলে. We hear of cotton cloth as thin as the slough of a snake. The early Tamil poems also mention the weaving of complex patterns on silk. Urayur. Urayur ki hoy? Urayur kar rajdhani hoy? Urayur. Chola, was noted for its cotton trade. From the very early times, the Tamils traded with Greek or Hellenistic kingdom of Egypt and Arabia. Egypt kon tetia Greeks asile nohoy. On the one side, and with the Malaya archipelago, and from there with China on the other. India gute foreign trade to তেওঁলোকে সম্ভালি আছে এই তিনিখন কিংডমে এফালে to Greek, Egypt, Romer লগত এফালে আছে আৰু এফালে Malaya, China. As the world of trade, as a result of trade, the words for rice, ginger, cinnamon, and several other articles in Greek language were derived from Tamil language. So Greeks bilake rice jitu koy, ginger, cinnamon, Tamil logot eke. When Egypt became a Roman province, Egypt Greek or Roman legol, and when the monsoons were discovered about the beginning of the 1st century AD, 1st century AD the monsoons are discovered hoise. Etu nijok kane likhilo koru. This trade received great impetus. Monsoon jeta gom pale petiar pora trade to aru beshi bhalo hoi gol. Thus, for the first 2.5 centuries AD, the southern kingdoms carried on lucrative trade with the Romans. With the decline of this trade, these kingdoms also began to decay. Etwe kotha. Romanor logot trade to decline hoy gol aru ei kingdom bilako decay hoy gol. Etu important kotha. So apnalage dekhile iman din trade apnalage dekha nasile. Trade dekhile during this phase. So this phase is very important here. Karan ki Gupta age you will not see so much of trade. Clear hole ekhini sobore? Yes, no. Now we will see this ivory image, ivory sculpture. Ivory sculpture, it's quite famous. Aru naam hoise Pompeii Lakshmi. Etia kobole Pompeii kot ase. Where is Pompeii? Ekhon city hoy. Italy ase. Aru Pompeii Italy ase aru etu sculpture মানুহবিলাকে কৈছে যে Mathura sculpture, Mathura style of sculpture বুলি কৈছে আৰু প্ৰথমতে মানুহবিলাকে ভাবিছিলে লক্ষ্মী বুলি ভাবিছিলে পিছতকে কৈছে যে Yakshini নামটো শুনিছে নে কেতিয়াবা Yakshi নাই শুনা Yaksha aru Yakshini Jokhini শুনিছে না Jokhini Yes, same Jokhini were supernatural beings aru agote statues bilak godor jiblak sculptures asile sculptures or side ot eneke Yakshinis bilak aka jay ba bonwa jay. So she is etia koy Lakshmi nohoy teo, maybe a Yakshini. So this shows that ivory from this part of the country, India, goi pine Italy paisege. Heto kotha. Ete mi saw the purse and the sword. Trade, foreign and internal, constituted a very important source of royal revenue. Our trade naikya hoi joa lage lage hey cities bilako naikya hoi gol. Cities naikya hoi gol, cities kyo naikya hobo? State khone jodi naikya hoi jay, cities e naikya hoi jabo. তাৰ মানুহবোৰ আকৌ গৈ পিনে যেনে তেনে ভিলেজখন সাৰ্ভাইভ কৰে, ভিলেজত থাকিবগে। You see, the state hobo hole, you know, trade is very important. Mane at least some sort of money, either from trade thakibo lagibo. Trade নহলে cities নহব. Cities নহলে states keneke hoboge. We know how the custom officials function in Puhar. Transit duties were also collected from merchants who moved with their goods from place to place. Puhar কাৰ ৰাজ্যত আছিলে? Puhar কোনে বিল কৰিছিলে? Pola. Karaikale bill কৰিছিলে. Karikala. Transit duties were also collected from merchants who moved with their goods from place to place. So তেওঁলোকৰ পৰা এইবোৰ tax tolls collect কৰিছিলে. For the safety of merchants and prevention of smuggling, soldiers maintained constant vigil on the road. So merchants বিলাকেও পইচা দিছিলে কাৰণ কি তেওঁলোকৰ smuggling পৰা ৰক্ষা কৰিব আছিলে. Spoils of war further added to royal income. Smuggling কি হয়? Smuggling to আপোনালোকে পিছত গৈ ৰখাব লাগিব. What is smuggling? Any idea? Unaccounted transport. Yes, tax নিদিয়াকে কৰা simple আৰু. Tax নিদিয়াকে কৰা যিটো trade হেতুকে smuggling বুলি কয় আৰু. As simple as that. Trade কৰিব পাৰিব কিন্তু tax দিব লাগিব আৰু tax নিদিয়াকে unaccounted কৰিলে মানে very good সবে জানে. So state had an interest in trade definitely কাৰণ trade পৰা পইচা পাব লাগিব. Right? Spoils of war added further added to royal income. War কৰি warৰ পৰা যিখিনি পাইছিলে এইটো royal income add কৰিছিলে কিন্তু main to tax মানুহৰ পৰা লোৱা. But the real foundation of war and polity lay in regular income from agriculture. War তেতিয়াহে কৰিব পাৰিব যেতিয়া regular income এটা আছে agriculture পৰা নহলে standing আমি ক'ৰ পৰা কৰিব পাৰিব. The share of the agricultural produce claimed and collected by the king is not specified. So আমি নাজানো কিমান collect কৰে. The tip of the peninsula and the adjacent regions were extremely fertile. The land produced paddy, ragi, and sugarcane. It was said of the Kaveri Delta that the space in which an elephant could lie down produced enough to feed 7 persons. Hati hati eta poibole jiman jaiga lage ta 7 persons karone khana hoi jay hetu jaga. Iman fertile asile. In addition to this, Tamil region produced grains, fruit, pepper, and turmeric. It seems that king had a share in all of this produce. Sobote kingor share thakiboi, sobote kingor bhag thakiboi. So the king is like an authorized robber, no? Ami enekeo saw paru. The state is like an authorized robber. So authority di disu ami aru. To keep us safe from all other robbers, we let the king rob. So at this note, we will end today. Aru etu kaile hek ho jabo. So আজি এখিনি ডিসকাশনস খিনি ক্লিয়ার হল নে কেনেকে সাউথত কেনেকে হিস্ট্রি কেনেকে আৰম্ভ হল অকমান বাকি আছে কাইলে আমি ইয়াৰ পৰা কন্টিনিউ কৰিম yes South India a fearful region মানুহবিলাকে ইয়াৰ পৰা প্ৰশ্ন আহিলে ভয় খাই যায় but you need not worry মসব ক্লিয়ার হৈ যাব কনসেপ্ট ক্লিয়ার হলে ফ্যাক্টস বোৰ আৰামসে ক্লিয়ার হৈ যাব So thank you so much for joining in live. We will continue tomorrow. We are going to the after class. Thank you everyone. Bye bye.